Hey everybody, welcome into the Rhapsody Music Studio here in Anthem, Arizona as part of our regular Rhapspired series. We're excited to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us if you watched some of the other videos. And we are super excited today to have Miss Arlene Renico in with us. Nice to have you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Arlene joined us recently here at Rhapsody and we are so super excited. Every now and then you get a unique experience. And Arlene literally came in the store, looked around, said, "This is a really nice store. How would you like a flute teacher?" And as a person who's got as amazing skills as she has, we gravitated her right away. So Arlene is a brand new flute instructor with us, and she is a lifelong flute player and professional music instructor, and we are so super excited to have her. And as we've done in these video series, one of the most important things we like to find out is, how did you get started playing flute? What was that first inspirational moment where flute and you became connected?
Well, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, my hometown, I don't remember exactly, but a band from that school I went to must have played for me, and I got really inspired, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a drummer." And they said, "No, too many drums. Too many kids on drums." And I said, the only other name of an instrument I knew was clarinet. Excuse me. And I said, "How about a clarinet?" "Nope, got all of our clarinets signed up." "Well, how about that silver stick over there?" Because I didn't even know the name of the flute. And I realized years later, even though I did take some drumming classes, just enough to be dangerous on, it was meant to be because my maiden name is Huff, H-U-F-F. So I grew up with the initials A, Huff. It was meant to be.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Drumming. You were thinking of being a drummer first.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. I couldn't have picked that. Like if you'd have given me 6 guesses, I would have not have guessed
Really?
drums would have been your first choice. That's funny. Alec talked about in one of the videos that clarinet was not his first choice. It ended up being the one he could make noise on, I think, or something. That was kind of what that was. It's interesting how we get to those things. So that was in what grade?
5th grade.
5th grade. And Michigan's pretty big. That was a pretty big band world. I mean, there's a lot of good bands and college bands and things there. So how was your huffing flute experience in 5th grade? Did it sink in pretty quick? Did it?
It took me, if my old flute director, or I should say band director, was still alive, she'd probably drop over of a heart attack, because it took me 2 solid weeks to get a good sound on the flute, because that's the hardest thing we ever do. And nobody told me just to try and work on just the head joint.
Oh, yeah.
But once I got that, it was off to the races. I really fell in love with the flute.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
What's the next progression? So those of us that have been in band, and a lot of us have, we have a starting point. We have that 5th grade or 6th grade start, and for at least 4 or 5, 6 years, it's pretty methodical. You go from level to level, from the next school to next school. You're auditioning for this. You're doing all-state. You're doing the things that are there. At some point, though, we all make a choice. Those of us that have decided to live with the profession lifelong, we decide to take that next step, the next part of the journey, which I assume after high school meant going on to college and pursuing. When did you kind of make the decision that you knew music, and flute specific, was really going to be part of that next journey?
I was actually 10 when I told my mother and dad that I was going to be a professional flutist, and they thought, "Oh my gosh, make sure the girl can type." Because back then that was a thing, we women didn't have a lot of, unless you were going to be a teacher of some kind in a public school or a nurse, they thought she's going to starve. But I knew music chose me. Yeah. So by the time I was 10,
You already really knew. Mm-hmm. So to walk me through your journey a little bit, let's go through your post-high school journey. What did you do collegiate-wise? Where'd you get professionally? Where'd you start? Give us a little bit of that story too.
I worked on my bachelor's degree at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Great place to go to school because, oh my gosh, they have the gloomiest weather on the planet. They're right up there with Seattle.
Right. Nothing else to do.
Oh my gosh, so yeah, study. Study. Had a great teacher there who actually was originally a saxophone player, who switched to the flute because he met his future wife, who was a flutist, and he wanted to play duets with her.
Oh,
So
that's sweet.
he played with the local symphony, the Kalamazoo Symphony, and he was my teacher all the way through Western.
What was his name?
Dr. Charles Osborne,
Okay.
and he just passed a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think just 2 years ago, so.
It's amazing the influence sometimes those people have. I had a trumpet professor in college, Robert Pinerio, who he played a ton of big band stuff. And we would talk about stories of the big, I think he had lost a certain percentage of his lungs because, of course, the big band days, they were just smoking like whatever. It's that whole era. But I remember one key phrase. There was one key phrase that I got out of him that I still use this day. He told me, because we all worry about mechanics of our instruments.
Sure.
I'm going to do this, do this. He goes, Mike, if the kid plays out of his ear and he sounds good, leave him alone. To this day, I always remember that because at a certain point, if I get the kid sounding, if the sound is coming out the way we want it, and everything, let's let him go a little bit. We don't have to fine tune it. But those influences of those people are huge in our lives. What was did you get an ed degree or a performance degree?
I got a performance degree
Okay.
On the flute.
Okay.
And
but you ended up teaching quite a bit too, if not, right? 'Cause
when I was younger, all I wanted to do was play, play, play. I was either going to play for a symphony orchestra, or I was going to go on, get a master's and a PhD and teach flute in a college, in a university. And after Western, with the advice of my Dr. Charlie, he said it'd be much better for me career-wise, though he'd love to have me as part of the program working on my master's there, but to go elsewhere.
Okay.
Well, I graduated from Western during the late 70s, and we had record snowfalls up north.
Yeah.
We had, they've still set records to this day, and I remember going to rehearsals in thigh-high deep snow and wishing I'd had some snowshoes, and only to find rehearsal had been canceled anyways, but they didn't have cell phones back then. They couldn't text me,
There's no big group text.
Yeah, it was a big sign on the door. I went, okay then, character building. But yeah, I had a ball at Western. I was in the marching band as well, though I figured playing outdoors in freezing rain and snow wasn't very musical, so I said, oh, forget that, and I went into color guard. So I did flags one year and rifle and saber the next 3.
No way.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
It's fun.
Very cool. So that was through college, you did some of that. What was the next step professionally?
Then I went on to, I let my dad bribe me into going to grad school. I didn't really want to go right away. I felt like I needed a year off. I'd gone straight through school. I was, I don't know if I should have said that, but anyways, I was 21 and had my degree, and I just felt I needed a break. He was afraid I was never gonna go back to school,
Right.
so he bribed me into paying for my tuition, and I got a graduate assistantship just wandering through. I got kind of lost in the music building at Florida State.
Oh, wow.
In Tallahassee, Florida. And I heard somebody saying, well, what are we going to do? School starts next week and we don't have a graduate assistant for this class, music appreciation. And I went, excuse me, pardon me. And I walked in and literally got handed a graduate assistantship.
Wow. It's interesting sometimes, some of the opportunities we have. I don't know if everybody gets to experience this, because some people get really mapped out at what they're doing. They're very good. I had so many experiences that really happened to be about either where I was, who I knew, or walking into an opportunity and just having my eyes open enough to be able to go, yeah, I'll take that opportunity right there. Where some people miss those. They're either I don't want to say too planned out, because I have respect for organized people also.
Sure.
But sometimes there are opportunities that are missed because they're just not kind of lost. They're not lost wandering around the music business. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you got your master's then from?
I did not finish my master's. I got about a third of the way there, and I really, as much as West Michigan was a great place to study, Florida State was not. The beach was too close, the people were friendly, and it was sunny so much of the year. So I decided I didn't really want or need my master's degree to do what I want, and that was just I shouldn't say just, but to concentrate on teaching private lessons.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Yeah, and so you've obviously, when did you start teaching privately? Did you do it even earlier than college or in college?
Yeah, I was 16. I was in high school.
I figured you probably gravitated to helping and teaching quite a bit. And one thing you told me when we first talked about is you are skilled, educated, and practiced in the Suzuki methodology, which most people, I think, when they hear Suzuki, they automatically think violin, because that's been around. But you're a Suzuki flute teaching professional as well.
Yes.
When did that start? And tell me how the impact of that methodology on your teaching. How does that impact your teaching?
Interesting story. Suzuki also has nothing to do with motorcycles.
Right.
The sound shouldn't. We are, as flute players, kind of the red-headed stepchildren, so to speak, of the Suzuki world, but there is a wide range of instruments that are Suzuki. Guitar, I pick up so many pointers from the crazy guitar teachers. All the strings, of course,
right.
Piano, harp.
Okay.
Trying to think what else.
Not many of the wind instruments, if any. Flute is almost the only wind that really has a calling on it.
Pretty much. Well, I found I was teaching at Marshall Music, had my dream job. I had a studio of 30 students, and my students were getting younger and younger, Mike, and I thought, what am I going to do with these kids in the larva stage? I mean, there was a couple who was bringing in their little girls, twins, they just turned 5. And I thought, what do I do with these kids? And I happened to go, this is back in '99, I went to a national flute convention. Fluters and composers from all over the world gather, and each country has their own, but the biggest one is in the US. And it happened right here in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Downtown at the convention center. And I went and I heard a master class talked about with the Suzuki teaching method. And I thought, I think I'll sign up for a class and see what this is like. And I went and I gave that poor teacher more grief because I thought everything might be BS about this. I had already been in conventional music and playing professionally for 33 years. Yeah. Shock of shocks. She dared, my Suzuki teacher grabbed my flute and changed where I was lined up. And I thought, how dare you? And I came storming back to the condo we were staying at, and I said to my husband, who was there with me, we stayed in the mountains. It was gorgeous. It was at Snowmass, because I thought, well, we'll have a nice vacation if this turns out to be a dead end, you know. Right. And she made such a convert out of me. I leaned down to the door of the bedroom I was practicing, and I said, hon, can you tell the difference in how I'm playing? And he goes, yeah, it sounds much clearer. I almost fell over.
Holy cow.
33 years of playing, and because in America, we always, no matter what our physiology is, end up lining up our embouchure hole with, in a certain way. Right. But there is a wonderful Japanese method of custom setting it up for anybody.
Like setting up the flute playing for the person as opposed to for the flute.
That's right. There's a whole range of areas we can set that up.
That's almost like what I said about the trumpet. If the kid plays great and he plays that as ear lead motor, I mean, that's the same thing.
Yes.
We've done things so specifically, but the reality is if you have somebody that plays with it and you bring that to them, then they can naturally play instead of trying to affect it. That's a great concept. I love that. I love that concept. I'm interested. What is the one piece of music, if there is one, there are probably more than one, that rises to the top, that for you, like, is one of the most inspirational pieces of music? It could be flute, it could be a full organ, it doesn't matter, but what piece of music to you is the one that is your go-to all the time?
I personally fell in love with Concertina by Chopin because when I was 13, my band director introduced me to it, and I fell in love with it. He played it for me, and I just kind of went, oh, do you think I could do that? He said, absolutely. So the next spring concert, I soloed with my band on it. I was 14 by then. It took me the whole school year to work on it.
Right.
But it's chased me through the decades because it's a piece it's complex enough that every time I pick it up, I can take it to another level.
Yep.
I used it to get into the School of Music at Western and grad school at Florida State, and I've performed it with a community orchestra up in Michigan. It's just kind of haunted me down through the decades.
Yeah, and then the shamanat, there's a few trumpet solos over there, as I've heard, where there are certain tunes in each of the instruments' repertoire that gets to be called the, right? Because people refer to that flute solo as the shamanat.
Yes.
Even though it's sonata number da 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 da, there's the Artunian or the Haydn trumpet. It's there. That is one of those tunes, I think, and it is one of my. You play that oftentimes when you're coming into the building, when you're warming up and stuff.
It's a great warm up.
And it just usually stops me. How about if we take a moment and actually have the audience listen to the shamanat?
I think that'd be
I think
brilliant.
that'd be good. Let's do that. Yes, that is one of, I think, the most beautiful flute solos and pieces of music that I've heard in a long time. So that's good that we got to share that. Well, I sure appreciate you being with us here today. Anything else for the good of the order as far as talking to our folks listening to us about music, about being inspired by music, something you'd like to share with them and leave them with a nugget of your years of professional experience?
I've always been a very focused, laser-focused person on getting to be good, good on the flute, whatever that next step is. But if the students aren't having fun, why bother?
Yeah.
It's got to be fun. There's so much fun literature out there, and there's so many fun brain gym games, which I use from Suzuki there's so many brain gym games that have nothing directly to do with music that are good for the musical brain.
Right.
And so I always have my students give me a pinky pledge that if things get to be kind of drudgery, to let me know.
Right.
And we'll give an injection of fun.
And I'm not guessing, I'm going to make an assumption. You find that when you're able to implement the aspect of fun in what you actually get from them is actually higher achievement and higher expectations anyway as it goes on. So it's not fun at expense of the music.
That's right.
It's making the process fun as we get better.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yes.
Hey guys, it's been a real treat to have Arlene. Arlene, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mike.
Again, what a treat for her after really a lifelong of professional and teaching experience, walking the door, bringing that here to Rhapsody. I'm actually getting little goosebumps and chills as I talk about that. This is a treat for us to be here and have people want to align themselves with us. So Arlene is now part of our Rhapsody family here. If you want to learn more about what she's got to offer flute-wise, doesn't matter if you've played flute before, you can start now. If you've got a youngster with flute, come and see Arlene and let's get you hooked up with her. And again, from Mike and Arlene and the rest of the Rhapsody folks here from the Rhapsody studio in Anthem, Arizona, have a wonderful day and bless you all.